let's not kid ourselves. The only reason you're here is because the anxiety of missing out on the very best projects at the very best prices has probably been keeping you up at night. However, I also know you've seen probably 100 other best crypto project videos similar to this by a plethora of other crypto YouTubers claiming to know their so-called secret sauce behind those 100x projects. Now, most of these YouTubers leave the analysis to reading quotes from projects' websites, putting out useless TA signals from charts on volatile and unpredictable micro to mid-cap projects, and allude to the simple fact that they are a reliable source, but provide literally zero fucking data to back anything up. As a matter of fact, most sound like novices simply reading some of the technical jargon from the dumbed down information on the project's homepage. And while I don't have to explain why any of those things show little to no indication of what makes a project good or bad, let alone those 100x's, what it actually does can be a lot worse. People absorb that kind of content because the anxiety behind investing in a project they know little to nothing about fades when they hear someone else claim that they are bullish, even when that comes with weak or, in most cases, literally zero supporting information at all. Now, for all you know, they're pulling this shit from thin air and are looking for validation themselves. Or, better yet, they're simply regurgitating the information from someone else they follow who is pulling their information from someone else they follow. And believe me, guys, this whole industry of crypto project reviews is saturated with dogma. Although, to be fair, there definitely are a few names that pretty much prove that they're quality, like Coin Bureau, Coinsider, and Invest Answers, just to name a few. But for the most part, this industry is built on lies on lies on lies. And because this is a huge emerging industry, those who are financially gullible do tend to fall for this type of shit. After all, a project has 100x potential because you can read the homepage, check the investors, and look at some candles on a chart, right? Wrong. Today, I'm not going to give you 3 projects that are good because I say they are. I want to give you 3 projects that are good because you can make that judgment based on the information that I do provide. The information isn't based on what Jimmy Bill Bob from down the road is saying, nor is it a complete and total representation of what I believe in. It's just simply the straight facts. Now, I do want to say for the record, I had to vet these projects from a list of 33 projects in the market cap range of $100 million to $500 million, being the mid-sized projects that appeal to pretty much most, if not all levels of investor types. And I'm not going to lie, guys, some beat their rivals, at least on this list, due to the factors that I don't unfortunately have time to go into. There's a reason why my average review video goes for around 30 minutes, and it's because I fill it with quality information about the entire project. However, obviously, because I have a tendency to want to explain technical and fundamental details, and trust me, I do, I've restricted myself in this video to 5 minutes per project. And I want to make that previous statement very, very clear. Almost every project on this list is one that I genuinely do like, especially in today's list. But if you're going to give me some money to throw into a project that, I have to pick one or the other, then honestly, this video would be the answer to that question. So today's projects will be vetted on the following criteria with a score out of 10 for each category. Now, the first is the USP, aka the unique selling point. I'm looking for things like, does it have one or more unique selling points that will attract users or solve an issue? Number 2, the long-term vision. Now, this is answering the question about where they want to be, or in other words, the product market fit, and in that case, who they are competing with. Number 3 is the investors. Now, this is important now more than ever because the size of the funding rounds increase bear market survivability, and the quality of investors attract more people to the project, obviously generating more demand. Now, number 4 is the team, perhaps the most important fundamental out of everything, because the team are the guys that drive the ship or drive the car, whatever you like to pretty much use there. We're looking for crypto experienced, educated, and also doxed individuals. Now, number 5, we have the roadmap, or in other words, is the project accurate with previous events? So, for example, have they executed these on time and as intended? Now, personally, this gives some insight into their ethos as well and does reflect on their technological claims, believe it or not. And also, what important events are coming up that may create a further USP or need for the project? Now, if we analyze this correctly, guys, this can literally be like looking through a crystal ball. Number 6, we have decentralization. So obviously, if a project is going to claim it's a cryptocurrency, it's going to need to be somewhat decentralized, or at least working towards it, because if not, then it may as well be a centralized business. But in saying that, decentralization is actually a highly debated topic in our industry. So when I refer to the term decentralized, I only mean how many points of control there are and who governs the network. Now, that term can obviously be exacerbated, and there's a lot more that does go into it, but for the premise of this video, let's keep it nice and simple. And finally, guys, number 7, something you won't hear very often in any of these videos, the negatives. Now, there obviously are going to be negatives in any project, no matter how large or small it is, and they are very important to identify, regardless if that comes from, say, technical or fundamental aspects. Now, in this particular case, because I'm rating each of these out of 10, a 10 is going to be if the negative is somewhat manageable or negligible, and a 1 is if it is a serious flaw. Now, for those of you who are wondering, I, along with some of you on Twitter, have pre-selected all the 33 projects and placed them into their respective industries, as you can actually see on screen now. So each industry will have a winner, and those winners will be scored out of a total of 70 points. Again, we have 7 categories, and they're scored out of 10 for each. Now, after I have reviewed the remaining categories in my next video, I will announce the overall winners based on how they all scored, including today's video. But in saying that, in this video, I'll be covering my favorite industries, which turns out to be interoperability, DeFi, L0/L1 ecosystems, and I'm going to leave those other 6 industries again for the next breakdown. Now, you may be asking why I've opted for a scoring system over just rating projects against each other, and my answer is to give certain industries some limelight that I otherwise wouldn't consider over another. For example, interoperability is far more important than NFTs, at least right now, and by knowing this, I wouldn't consider an NFT project, no matter how promising it is, over an interoperability alternative that may be equally advantaged. Now, the key word there, guys, is if they were both equally advantaged. Whoa. Okay, hold your horses for a second. I can literally feel the violent shaking of the earth at the unison keyboard smashing from all of those people who swear NFTs are the best thing ever. So for the record, I absolutely need to say, I mean no offense to the NFT community, because believe it or not, and for a lot of you long-term viewers, you're not going to believe me, but I've legitimately started to like NFTs. Yes, I know, it's just crazy. So just, settle down. So with everything said and done, and your unexpected insight into my disdain for a majority of the crypto review channels, and I do apologize for all of you who hate my long introductions, let's get into the video. But, and there's always a but, before we do, welcome back to a brand new video, everyone. My name is Kyron from No BS Crypto, and if you're new around here, I would like to say welcome, and if you are a returning subscriber, of course, thank you for sticking around and continuing to support me. For those who don't know, my channel is designed to give you the most comprehensive overview of cryptocurrency projects, so you're, of course, the most informed when making investment decisions. Over on my channel, you'll only see objective reviews with fundamental analysis to back everything up. Like every single category on this list, it did come down to the wire, but I've given the overall win to Moonbeam. Now, for those wondering, it came down to Moonbeam and Ren, as they're both pretty much similar in many regards, and actually, as a matter of fact, Ren does beat Moonbeam in some aspects. However, the advancements in general message passing and overall compatibility with the Polkadot network to create some unique smart contracts infused with Substrate resulted in Moonbeam claiming victory. I also want to point out that Synapse came in a very, very close third, with the use of multi-party computation and TSS giving it a unique advantage in the comparison. Now, plus they've already bridged to most large chains, including Moonbeam, but regardless, the winner is the winner. So without further ado, what the hell is Moonbeam? Well, guys, Moonbeam is a smart contract platform built on Polkadot Substrate as a parachain. Now, Moonbeam does provide seamless interaction between EVM-compatible dApps with the Polkadot ecosystem, and the Polkadot ecosystem is only in its infancy, so you can expect come the 2024-2025 bull market to pretty much be the cornerstone of a lot of the ecosystem. Now, Moonbeam leverages connected contracts which are built using general message passing to allow any project to communicate with another without deploying a new contract on a new blockchain. All that is required is for a project to redeploy a smart contract onto Moonbeam, and voila, instant interoperability with far more customization and complicated messaging available. Now, there is far more to Moonbeam than that, obviously. So if you want a comprehensive overview with my personal price prediction for that 2025 bull market, then check out my video, always get that wrong, up the top right-hand corner of your screen. Now, the USP comes in the way of general message passing, which is only a very new technology. I personally would expect there to be more tinkering around with third-party deployments like Nomad and XLR, who Moonbeam actually leverages to make their sort of platform happen, while XEM is also a full swing on Polkadot. Also, let's not forget the highly customizable dApps we can create from the combination of smart contracts and the substrate palettes. Now, because of all this combined, I'm giving them a 10 out of 10 for USP. Now, their long-term vision is quite obviously to unite the entire ecosystem in the hope that we become more interoperable, thus onboarding the mass market. Now, as crypto currently operates a little bit like a bunch of islands with the old message in a bottle approach, Moonbeam is effectively saying, "F that," and pretty much building highways instead, plus allowing smaller economies to become more sophisticated. Now, at the moment, Moonbeam really has no direct competitors that are at a higher market cap than her, or at least that are offering an equal or just as great cross-chain approach. Now, this creates unlimited potential for the project, in my opinion, and offers fantastic buying opportunities at such low market cap prices like we're seeing right now. So with that, she gets another 10 for long-term vision. Now, the investors are top tier, like literally second to none, and what you'd expect in a project as promising as Moonbeam. Now, I'm not going to bother saying their names because you'll be well and truly sick of that by the end of this video, but the total funding between the two rounds came to $6 million from the investors alone. So it's safe to say they got another 10. Since Moonbeam is decentralized, the team behind the protocol are from a company called Pure Stake. Now, the Pure Stake team are highly qualified, experienced, and they're all doxed. And while they are all perfect for their own roles, some even maintaining the same role over the course of multiple enterprises and industries, they are still missing a little bit of that crypto native experience. Now, while this is kind of subjective and to be as fair as possible, I've decided to give them an 8 out of 10 here. But just remember, we can't see how effective a team works together behind closed doors, so keep that in mind. Now, for those of you who are interested in Moonbeam a little bit more, I'm actually interviewing the founder of Pure Stake, Derek Yo, next week. So if you guys are interested in listening to that, then stick around for that video. Now, in terms of the roadmap, it's quite interesting because there technically isn't one. Since Moonbeam is a fully deployed decentralized blockchain, it's completely built out on the technical front and more or less in the hands of the community to decide what happens next. Now, of course, the Moonbeam Foundation is there to provide funding for the ecosystem and to coordinate partnerships, but that's pretty much about it. Now, there is what Moonbeam calls their upcoming events page, which you can see on screen now. But since this is literally the ideal situation for a cryptocurrency and is everything a community stands for, I'd be stupid if I didn't give them any less than a 10 out of 10. As I've already mentioned, Moonbeam's council is completely decentralized as depicted in their original 3-step phase. Now, this means that the protocol is completely governed by the community. The number of active collators is currently capped at 64, which Moonbeam has addressed will increase in accordance with adoption. But it's important to remember that security and decentralization, and remember in this case in terms of points of power, isn't the same for parachains, as this falls into the hands of Polkadot validators. And because of this, in a way, I kind of do have to crucify Moonbeam because of Polkadot. So for those of you who are a bit confused, Polkadot currently has 297 validators, but Moonbeam is governed by the community. So in this case, I have to give them a 5 out of 10 here. Now, for the record though, Polkadot plans to have a total of 1,000 validators as the ecosystem does mature. And remember, pretty much Polkadot's ecosystem has only just been created as the start or late last year. Now, I would go as far as to say that those 1,000 validators would score any parachain a 10 out of 10 in this department. So I guess if you're watching this video sometime in the future and Polkadot does have 1,000 validators, then I would give them a 10. But again, right now, it's just going to be a 5. And finally, some of the negatives. So first of all, I would have to say that the reliance on third-party GMP protocols such as Nomad and XLR may cause some future issues. Now, just to give you one example, Nomad was recently hacked for $190 million, and in a way that doesn't really surprise me. This is actually new technology we're talking about here, guys, and with that is going to come some dangers. The fact that although it's not no fault of Moonbeam shows that the protocol is more or less in the hands of third parties, probably more than what they'd like to be. Now, Moonbeam is more or less dependent on these GMP protocols to survive, And if one or more were taken away, then it would cause havoc on the network, possibly in the realm of billions of dollars in the future. Now, it would be wise for Moonbeam to look at their own solution when it does come time to grow the network and adoption does therefore increase, or hopefully XCM works on external bridges. But for now, I have to rate them, and for this, I give them a 4 out of 10. And now, DeFi. If you'd like to know, the last three came down to Akala, Compound, and SushiSwap. Now, Compound and SushiSwap are both projects born in late 2020 and have over $2 billion in TVL respectively. Akala, on the other hand, is a Polkadot parachain, barely even a year old. However, giving the spot to SushiSwap, in my opinion, wouldn't be right as it doesn't have that wow factor. Yes, I guess it is interoperable, but that's going to be a standard very soon, and I can honestly see SushiSwap being outcompeted by other players over time. Now, Compound, on the other hand, does have more of a USP and is absolutely crucial for DeFi, as lending is one of the most important aspects in this industry. That's where it kind of ends though. Yes, it is important, and yes, Compound is quite established, being recently rated a B- by S&P Global Ratings, although it still doesn't beat the all-inclusive Akala. Akala is the EVM-compatible multi-chain DeFi hub of Polkadot, meaning it's capable of sustaining any financial application in the realm of what we know as decentralized finance. And that includes things like their own fully decentralized, multi-collateralized stablecoin backed by cross-chain assets. This offers users a chance to use a cross-chain swapping DEX, issue self-service loans, become liquidity providers, access staking derivatives, and earn high-interest APY on their digital assets. Now, it is a parachain just like Moonbeam, meaning it has an unbelievable amount of interoperability within the Polkadot ecosystem. Not only this, but the Akala EVM Plus allows Ethereum and other compatible virtual machine developers to build their smart contract applications on Akala, like Compound, for example, to access the all-inclusive features of the protocol. Now, just like Moonbeam, for any dApp willing to do this, they would unlock interoperability across the entire Polkadot ecosystem, and therefore the ecosystems built on these parachains. Now, for a quick example, Compound could deploy to Akala and interoperate with Osmosis on Cosmos by routing XCM messages through Moonbeam. Now, likewise, Compound could also talk with Parallel Finance and other applications connected to Polkadot. Now, basically, what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is that the possibilities are literally endless. With Akala leveraging the interoperable nature of Polkadot, we have a lot more on offer here, but the parachains just haven't been around for long enough for us to really see their full effect. Now, I'm not going to lie, I really do feel guilty putting two parachains up here, especially in regards to DeFi, because this industry is obviously far more saturated than interoperability. However, guys, let's face it, stats do not lie, and the possibilities of such new tech is something we're going to all have to experience in the next bull market. Look, I honestly told you I could waffle. We'd better get into the fundamentals. Now, obviously, Akala has a pretty good unique selling point. Let's just forget the fact that it's built on Polkadot and just observe the interoperability aspect, mixed with the array of obviously DeFi possibilities. Akala is more than just a standalone protocol. It's a protocol capable of deploying other substrate and smart contract-based platforms for users to indulge in a single interface. Not to mention the stablecoin being adequately supported by an array of assets across multiple chains. Again, I'm going to have to give this a 10 out of 10. The long-term vision of Akala is obviously up there with the very best, and more accurately, I would assume top 50 to top 25 if everything goes well. I think it's got the potential to rub shoulders alongside top layer 1 protocols, as it's basically a layer 1 DeFi ecosystem. Now, in saying that, this entirely depends on adoption, but we've got some good news. As you can see from this list, Akala already has 83 ecosystem partners, including some amazing projects like ones I have already mentioned on this channel. Now, at the moment, I don't really know of a specific layer 1 in the same category as Akala, being so hyper-focused on DeFi, so again, 10 out of 10 in this category. As for the investors, they are second to none as well. Again, as you can see on screen, almost all huge names are mentioned here, and there are quite obviously a lot more, but these are the ones just to remember. The total funding amount came to a total of $8.7 million between the seed and Series A rounds. Again, guess what? 10 out of 10. Akala's team comprises multiple members from previous crypto endeavors, two of which are Laminar and PokerWallet. Now, both aren't the most successful projects, I must say. However, PokerWallet does have a fair few downloads for the size of the industry. Now, either way, this is pretty important as synergy and crypto native experience goes a hell of a long way with the right amount of funding. My only issue here is that OX3 body isn't docs, which is going to bring that score down a notch, believe it or not. And saying that, I particularly admire Dan Reeser, who does an excellent job at explaining Akala, and basically all of the team on that note are educated as well. Overall, I'm going to give these guys a 7 in this department. Now, check this out. This is what you call a roadmap. Now, well done Akala for laying out the steps to full decentralization with a detailed explanation in each section. What's mentioned seems to be quite methodical, and to me, it sounds like they're at the very end of their path to a fully governing community. 9 out of 10 for these guys. Decentralization is in full swing as mentioned in their roadmap under the event Remove Pseudo, which was the Akala team's entry into the network. Now, there aren't that many collators on that note, numbering around 15 to 30 as far as at least I could find. However, I do know that they have onboarded more since those numbers were published. I just couldn't find the exact figures. But regardless, it doesn't really matter as this comes down to Polkadot anyway. So overall, it would only be fair to rate them a 5 with Moonbeam as well. Remember guys, though, this will eventually become a 10 as Polkadot validators do increase. This leads me to the negatives, and there is a huge elephant in the room. Around 2 months ago, Akala suffered from a major exploit to their AUSD stablecoin. It was around $1 billion or so that were minted from thin air, depegging AUSD to 1 cent, which was a 99% drop. Now, this was obviously bad, but it wasn't entirely what caused an uproar. You see, what really caused the uproar was that people got scared because Akala actually instantly froze the hacker's wallet, something typically requiring governance. Claiming that it had no control over the decentralized network, this was a bit of a double-edged sword here. On one hand, they saved a lot of money and possibly network liveliness, and also on the other hand, they had damaged their reputation. Now on that note, there are also other negatives I could mention as well, like adoption and etc, etc. However, it would all basically come back down to trust, spawning from this very event, the AUSD sort of hack. Now, I know a lot of people are congratulating them for doing this, and a lot are condemning them, but I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. In my case, I've got to kind of lean towards the worst side of things, so overall, they get a 2 here. Ooh, now this is going to be really, really fucking hard. You know, the L0 and L1 category might as well be the toughest to compare because they're all uniquely good, obviously in their own way, and I think a lot of you guys will agree with me on that. One might have 1,000 TPS but be highly secure or private. One might have a unique sharding approach, and the other be highly interoperable or lay the groundwork like Kusama. 3 projects that I had a really hard time deciding between were Stacks, Oasis, and Mina, and when it came down to it, I decided to knock off Stacks in favor of privacy that both Oasis and Mina share. Now, this was pretty much because I see privacy being a more important Web3 concern, or at least need, than trying to interoperate with Bitcoin, at least in the grand scheme of things. Listen, guys, you have no idea how hard it was for me to decide between Oasis and Mina. Both, in my opinion, are equally just as good, so my decision was based on risk to reward and current versus future potential. Now, Oasis is currently far more developed than Mina in the protocol sense. However, in my opinion, Mina has a lot more riding on it. Now, in the same regard, Oasis is built on a technology that already exists for the most part, at least, and Mina is at the cutting edge of what we can do with blockchain and privacy. This means that Oasis is currently a less risky player than Mina because I do see it playing off, panning out and being successful, while Mina could yield high returns if everything does pan out. So if you're asking me, someone who loves a bit of a high risk, high reward situation, then I would hedge more into Mina. However, I must say that Oasis is a protocol that I love, and as a matter of fact, it's one that I plan to review quite soon after doing the research for this video. Now, Mina is a fantastic project, and you'll know that because I've already reviewed it twice on this channel. They're hopefully going to be able to do things no other blockchain has done thus far, like implement recursive snarks to maintain a fixed blockchain size, and use an Oracle service to extract data from any website 100% privacy free. Not just that, but they'll allow dApps to take execution off-chain, allowing for extremely fast TPS in addition to ZK rollups. And let's not forget that everything is highly private due to ZK snarks, but that's the thing. A lot of this is all hopefully. While their mainnet is live and things are working well so far, there are many obstacles the team pretty much still have to overcome, which is everything synonymous for a project at the cutting edge of innovation. Again, it's why I say it is a much riskier play. In saying that, if they do pull it off, I have no doubt the protocol will sit comfortably inside the top 50 or even 25 by market cap. And if you want to check out Mina in far more detail, then please watch that video again up the top right-hand corner of your screen. The USP is that Mina is a fixed size blockchain, being only 22 kilobytes in size. Now, if we consider that against most other blockchains, which are in the realm of 300 gigabytes and growing, this is considerably appealing for nodes affected by hardware requirements. Now, aside from that most famous claim to fame, Mina is working on implementing ZK technology beyond what is currently possible by building that aforementioned Oracle service, which would allow for information to be obtained from any website without the need to actually partner or notify that website itself. Now, if you don't know what that means, this would absolutely be huge for the entire crypto space, seeing as this is currently a huge inhibitor and it's something that just simply hasn't been done in the space before. So for that, they get a 10 out of 10 for sure. The long-term vision is also quite interesting. As I've somewhat alluded to, Mina has the potential to easily be inside the top 25 by cryptocurrencies in terms of market cap, if obviously everything works out. Now, the Oracle service alone, in my opinion, is super potent and is one huge reason why Mina would be very popular, at least in the future. Now, my only concern here is that it would need to be interoperable with other L1s to share that feature, of course. This is where the ZK bridge to Ethereum and other EVM-compatible chains is being developed, which will be a huge step in the right direction, of course. Now, in terms of competitors, naturally, you'd think of Zcash or another ZK Snark affiliated blockchain. However, that isn't quite true. There really isn't another blockchain directly competing with Mina, nor shares a similar roadmap in terms of what Mina is wanting to bring to the table. And in my opinion, the stars are really the limit. But again, let me reiterate, there may be a large amount of roadblocks along the way. So for this, I'm going to give them another 10 out of 10. So Mina's investors are also S tier, including names like Pantera, FTX, 3AC, Coinbase, NGC, Signum, Fambushi, LD, and Polychain, contributing to a total of $44.65 million raised over 3 rounds, with an additional $92 million ecosystem funding round. Overall, yet again, guys, guess what? Another 10 out of 10. So far, so good. Now, Mina was incubated by the O1 Labs team and receives continual development from the Mina Foundation. Evan Shapiro, one of the founders of Mina alongside Isaac Meckler, is the current CEO of the Mina Foundation and ex-CEO of O1 Labs. Now, both teams are full of some extremely intelligent individuals who specialize in zero-knowledge technology in addition to decentralized database and blockchain tech, quite obviously. Now, the teams are completely doxed and all information can be found on their respective websites. Overall, I would give them an 8 out of 10 here, just because there are no big names or really influential people that I could at least find. But again, I'm just nitpicking here. And Mina's roadmap is also quite good. They've listed everything they plan to accomplish in 2022, which does include some of those unique features I just spoke about. Now, it is important to note that Mina doesn't have a set roadmap, and like a lot of other protocols on the cutting edge of technology, they're having to push back events due to unforeseen issues. Now, for example, the last few quarters of 2022 has seen events like the ZK bridge and the ZK oracles delayed one or multiple times. Although, with that said, a lot is set to be underway this quarter of 2022. And for those watching in the future, we're currently in quarter 4. Now, things like the ZK bridge, ZK oracles, ZK rollups, and more are set to hit the testnet within the next 3 months. And I guess if you're watching this in 2023 and beyond, you'd be able to verify that. Now, with that being said, I can't mark Mina down too much due to their deadline changes, as the team literally is changing the game. So with that said, they get a 7 out of 10 here for their roadmap. Some of you may say that's a bit generous, but you got to remember, guys, all things considered, it is what it is. In terms of decentralization, Mina is not quite there yet, judging by the standards I disclosed earlier in the video. There are currently an average of 190 block producers and 24 snark workers within the last month, which isn't quite decentralized by my definition. Now, with that being said, I think we can all agree this is to be expected from a protocol only 18 months old. However limited decentralization currently is for Mina, I am quite bullish on these numbers over the coming years, seeing as the protocol is so lightweight, it's able to be ran on phones and even browsers. Not to mention the hardware requirements to become a consensus node are extremely inexpensive, meaning anyone that holds the selective quantity of Mina tokens will be eligible to secure the network. Now, at the moment, Mina does deserve a 4 out of 10 here, as I can only rate what's currently in front of me. However, that will obviously most likely become a 10 over the course of time. The most obvious negatives is that it's risky. Mina is a protocol testing the very limits of cryptography and blockchain technology, which will and has resulted in many unforeseen challenges, some of which have been already on show, such as the roadmap events being delayed. Now, the negatives do get a little bit scarier though. Since Moonbeam is testing innovation, it will either be the protocol that claims the first mover advantage, which is why I say we have huge upside potential, or simply the protocol will be one that everyone looks at as a good learning curve. And I honestly do think it'll be one or the other. And to throw the icing on the cake, if the 22 kilobyte blockchain size that it claims to be able to maintain needs to be expanded in any way, such as to 122 kilobytes, or they just go, F it, we're going to uncap the limit like every other blockchain, then we may see some backlash depending on the severity. Now, I don't think I need to explain what that would do for the reputation of Mina, but for those wondering, it would not be very pretty. I don't think this will happen in all honesty, but I thought I would throw it out there just for the record. Now, these negatives make the protocol extremely risky for an investor who wants safer and more guaranteed long-term returns, but ideal for someone who wants to diversify into an innovative project, kind of like if you were to invest into AI in the traditional market sense. So in that case, Mina gets a 3 in this category. So guys, how did I do? That is going to be the video for the best interoperability, DeFi, and L0/L1 ecosystems, all between the market caps of $100 to $500 million. Some of you who are my avid viewers already know that these projects are some that I have reviewed in the past, and I do have a great liking towards. But in saying that, of course, I always try to be objective as possible, and I hope that you are all satisfied that I've done that for you today. Although I can imagine some of you are probably tossing and turning because I've included 2 projects that are both built on Polkadot. And well, guess what, guys? I just simply can't help the fact that some of the best projects are building on Polkadot, at least at these market cap levels. And I can tell you all right now that Polkadot will be a huge player in the upcoming bull market and beyond. And with all that out the way, the final scores in this first round came back with Moonbeam at 57 out of 70, Akala scoring 53, and Mina with a score of 49. So that means if you're hard stuck between choosing one of these 3 projects, you should seriously consider Moonbeam as a start. Although, in saying that, I must admit there is far more information that you need to consider here, like tokenomics, so check out my reviews on these projects in the description below. Stay tuned in a few weeks when I release that video on the remaining 6 industries for anyone obviously interested in any of those industries. Until then, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.